My name is Joseph Hammond. I'm a professional illustrator, and in this video I'm going to be doing a portrait using color pencils. Now we're going to be emphasizing speed because for those of you who use color pencils, you realize how slow it is. It's extremely slow. Okay, so we're going to be looking at a way of speeding it up, and at the same time I want to get more of a solid look. Because usually when you're working with color pencils, you end up with a more of a scratchy look. The texture of the paper is showing through and it looks really grainy. That is not the look that I want to get here. I want to get more of a solid, smooth look, and at the same time increase the speed. So I experimented with this piece here, and I think I've come up with a fairly good solution. This solution increases the speed by about 50%, and I get the looks that I really want to, that I wanted to get. And so in this video, I'll go through step by step, and I'll show you exactly how I achieved this. And so, having said that, let's get right to the video. So this is how we started the piece. I drew the whole thing, a line drawing, on a separate piece of paper, and then I transfer it over to this final piece. Okay, I'll be doing a video on drawing the line drawing for this piece here. It's not going to be on this video, but it'll be on another video, probably coming out in about 2 weeks after this is published. Okay, so if you like this video, I'd appreciate if you can hit the like button and the subscribe button. That'll help me out a lot, and and make it so a lot more people can see this video. Okay, thank you. And now this is how the technique that I used here. This is Sennelier's Pastel Card is the name of the paper. Okay, it's a sanded paper. Now this is the first time I've ever used a sanded paper with color pencils. Okay, if you try using color pencils directly on this, it doesn't work that well. It's really slow, and it comes out grainy looking. Now what makes this work is the pastels. Okay, you lay down a layer of pastels like you just saw me do here. I'm using Rembrandt soft pastels here, but that doesn't mean you have to use that. Any kind of pastels will be fine. Okay, most of it I used pastel pencils. Okay, they're a little bit harder pastels, but you're able to get into a little bit tighter areas there, and maybe not quite as fast as the soft pastels, but it works great. Okay, then after you lay down the pastels, you come over the pastels with your color pencils. Okay, I find it easier to go over the whole thing with white color pencils. The color pencils that I used here and I found to work the best, I have all kinds of different color pencils, and the ones that I found that worked the best for this technique was the Prismacolor color pencils. They have a lot more wax to them, and they cover a little bit better than the other brands that I have. And so I would recommend Prismacolor color pencils if you're going to try this technique. If you don't have it, use any other color pencil. But after you go over the whole thing with the white, you start adding in the colors that you need. Like you see what I'm doing right here? Now, it becomes a glaze of color. Okay, color pencils are translucent, and if you lay down or if you're working on a white surface, you're going to be able to see through it. And that's what happens here. And I think it works in your favor with the ability for light to go through this color pencils, probably more than pastels. Pastels are usually quite opaque. Color pencils are a lot more translucent, but even with pastels, you can still, layer colors on top of one another, and
and be able to see the color underneath. And that's what we're trying to do here. Okay, see how I hold the pencil. Okay, it's very loosely held in my hand, and it makes it so I can put a thin layer of color on rather than a really thick layer of color, and I'm not pressing down very hard. I'm going over the top of this very lightly. So, it may not seem like, even watching here, that not much is changing, but if you watch carefully, you can see that things are changing, but in a much slower pace. Anything you do in art, it's not much of it is fast. But in this technique, it's a lot faster than working with regular color pencils. Okay, so now you could see where on the side of her cheek there, that's all just regular pastels. Okay, and now we're going to start going over the top of that with usually a lighter color. Okay, the lighter colors work. I think the lighter colors have more wax in them. I'm not really sure, but you're going over the top of that, and it kind of just starts to blend things in, and you're not going to see the hard edges, or if you need to make a hard edge, you can still make a hard edge. Now, the advantage of this paper, at first I started using this, doing this piece here, and I was doing it just for the video, and I didn't think it was really going to work because I've never done it before with this kind of paper. But the reason why I did it was because I knew it held a lot of pigment. And I knew also that you can get a lot of darks with it, and you can get more intense color with it. Like, let's say the pastel matte, Clairefontaine pastel matte, you can't get quite as dark, and I don't think you can't get quite as intense color. And also, if you're going to work straight with color pencil, I would recommend using a white piece of paper. Now, this is a toned paper. Now, this is light gray, but since we're using the pastels first, it works out perfectly fine. But if you try, going with white on a toned paper with color pencil, it never really gets out to becoming white, pure white again. So I would recommend just using white paper. Here, that's another thing, is you're using the sides of your pencil, okay? When you're holding it like this, it forces you to use the side of your pencil versus the tip. This is not like writing, okay? You're trying to put down a thin layer of color, and you're going to be doing that with the sides of your pencil. Same thing with the pastels. You're using the sides of your pencil rather than the tip, okay? So I recommend sharpening your pencils manually versus with a pencil sharpener, but it's very dangerous. You can cut yourself using a razor blade to sharpen the, I use a box cutter to sharpen my pencils. But be very, very careful. You can get a nasty cut with a razor blade. But like I was saying, a lot of the Prismacolors are not centered. The cores are not centered. And you can't use a pencil sharpener to sharpen them. The only solution I've found is to sharpen them by hand. And if you're younger, maybe have your parents do it for you, but just be really careful. Okay, so you see, that's another, what's the advantage to this is that you can not only lay down your color pencils, then you can go over the top of it with pastels again. You can do, sandwich the colors over, one top of the one layer over the other. Okay, and that is a big advantage. Usually, when you're working with color pencils, and if you try to go over the top with pastels, it would just flake right off. It's like, trying to use pastels on a piece of plastic, right? It just doesn't hold. But and with this kind of paper, it will actually hold, and you can go over with pastels, and then you can go over with color pencils again. And I think it works really well, the layering of the pastels and the color pencils. And the fragility of the piece, with color pencils, with pastels, you can't really touch it, okay? Like if I put my hand on top of a pastel painting, I'm going to have a big handprint there, and then I'd have to fix it. But with color pencils, you can't. You can just put your hand on top of it and nothing happens. Now, here it's not as strong as just regular color pencils, but it's not as weak as pastels either. I mean, you can sort of touch it a little bit and, it doesn't get completely destroyed. But, it's still, you have to sort of be careful with it a little bit. But not as much as pastels. Okay, I don't recommend fixing this either. Fixative, spray. I've never had much success with working with fixatives. So if I wanted to display something, I'd put it under glass. Okay, and I haven't in this technique. Obviously, this is the first time I've done this with this pencil, so I can't really tell you about blooming. That is another problem that you have with color pencils. Is you have they tend to bloom, which means the wax comes up to the surface. Okay, and it'll maybe in about 6 months or so, it'll start getting a little cloudy, and you have to go back and kind of take a tissue paper, or and wipe it, gently, and that bloom comes off. But I'm not sure what is going to happen here with the pastels. I would not recommend wiping it with tissue paper. So I don't know if it's going to bloom or not. You have to find out. So now the background. I worked, the background is only pastels. The reason why I kept it that way was I don't want to have any reflections in the background. Pastels is flat. It sort of like absorbs the light, right? You don't get reflections when you photograph pastels. Now, on color pencils, you do. You get reflections. You'll have some areas that will, you have a big glared out area where it's, looks washed out, and that's due to the reflection of the color pencils. It's more like a slick surface versus a flat surface. Okay, so I left that pastels because it sort of stays back there in space rather than coming forward. Okay, I was just redrawing the back of her head there. Still seems a little bit big, but anyhow, this is here where I did the hair. Now the hair on usually with pastels on this kind of paper, I end up with using the technique of drawing value changes on the hair versus actually drawing each strand of hair. Okay. Now with color pencils, you can get each strand of the hair, but even with color pencils, it doesn't work that great with this paper. This paper is, it's better to have gradual value changes versus like individual hair. If you wanted to emphasize the individual hair, you might be better off using the pastel matte. Okay, that works better with that technique. This kind of paper works better for the gradual value changes. Okay, so now I'm working on the body here. You saw me draw in the black underneath her neck. The reason why I'm using black is this black here is a very cool black. Okay, blacks are either going to be warm or cool. The warm blacks are usually a dark brown, and the cooler blacks are usually a dark blue. and this one happens to be more blue. So when I go, lay down the black and I go over the top of it with the white color pencils, it has a grayish blue color to it. And in her skin, a lot of the blue tones, were coming out, the cooler colors, okay? Like you see around her mouth area, those are cooler colors. Under her neck are cooler colors. But you have to watch out that you don't want to get everything all cool. Otherwise, she's going to have a look like, she's dead, right? You don't want that look. You want to have more blood in her skin. And so you have to add in some warmer tones to it. Okay, so that's what I'm still going over with it, white. Okay, that white also blends. Any kind of imperfections that you have when you're laying down the pastels. I mean, you don't have to lay down the pastels real carefully. You can, but the color pencils will usually blend it out. Okay, and also I use a blender, a color pencil blender, and the one that I found works the best. I've always liked it the most is the Lyra's Splendor Blender. Okay, that's a funny name. You probably never forget it. It's the Splendor Blender, and it's put out by Lyra. You can buy it at online. I usually get it through like Jerry's or Dick Blick. They both sell those, and the Lyra pencils are good, but they're harder, and but you can get a really thin line with it. Like they're great for doing like the hair on the eyebrows, maybe the line around the top of the eye. So I did use a little bit of the Lyra black pencil, but the majority of it is all Prismacolor, and the pastel pencils I used were Carbo Othello pastel pencils, and I think I might have some Derwent in there also. Those are the two pastel pencils I like, is Derwent and Carbo Othello. And so that's what I'm doing here. So I'm going over the whole thing with white, and it takes a little bit of time. Now this piece here took me probably, I'm guessing, around 15 hours. Which seems like a long time, right? But to actually get a portrait like this, especially in color pencil, that's not too long. I've had illustrations take me, like maybe over 40 hours. And when you're an illustrator, the longer something takes, the less money you make. Right, it's not that you're constantly have job after job, but that would be nice. But usually, you still don't want to have it where, a job takes too long, because sometimes you have a really short deadline, and you have to be able to get it done quick. One of the techniques I used to get something done quick, working with color pencils, was to work on watercolor paper. And then I would put down, paint watercolor over the top of it. And then I would go in with the color pencil. And it would make it faster. Not a lot faster, but what it did was it made it so you didn't get the white reflections. When you lay down color pencil on a white surface, you get the little speckles, right? That's where the light is actually hitting through, going down to the paper and bouncing back out. And that eliminates that. So this was sort of a takeoff of that, but with pastels. And this works, a lot better than, either one. But, if you have the time and you want bright, intense colors, really strong colors and strong values, you can try the watercolor paper. And, you'll be surprised at how intense you can get the colors. Okay, so I think this is the finished piece here, and you know, I was really pleasantly surprised at how well it worked. It you know, had that solid feeling. I was able to draw it. Like I said, I thought it took about 15 hours. I should have really timed it because this is what the video was about, but I forgot. But anyhow, I liked it. I would recommend using this technique, and it you know, did everything I wanted it to do. And so if you like it, you know, hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe, because that would help me out a lot. And like I said, I'll be coming out with a new video in about 2 weeks on drawing the preliminary line drawing of this piece here. And so I'll see you then. Bye-bye.